I suppose I should probably throw some protection on the bottom of this bike so we don't, punch a hole in the bottom of the engine or tear the oil plug out or some other malady. This is a Ricochet skid plate. It's very nice. I'll leave a link below to where you can get this or a place where you can get this, but it's aluminum. It's pretty thick, moderately bulletproof. I wouldn't imagine you'd have much of a problem with an aluminum skid plate. I like plastic better because it's got a nice lubricosity ingrained in it and it slides better, but this will last. What this doesn't have, which I would like it to have, is some kind of linkage protection. Not even the protection more so than just the skid, right? You get your linkage caught up on things all the time and it's kind of annoying. A skid plate to help you just slide over it would be nice. So that's what we're gonna do today. It's a little DIY, okay? A little DIY project for us. The linkage skid itself will be made out of this this material. It's UHMW, ultra high molecular weight polyurethane. I actually tried to do this before. This is my second take at trying to do this, believe it or not. I learned a lot from the experience of trying to do this before, where I tried to use cutting board material, which is ultra high density polyurethane, and it broke. This has a different kind of strength to it. So we're gonna try this. I'm not saying the ultra high density stuff isn't good, but the way I made it, I bent it too many times or something, and it cracked off. It was really frustrating and sad. Just look up UHMW on Google or Amazon or whatever, and you could buy sheets of this for reasonably cheap. And you'll have enough to do maybe a couple skids on it. You could do a skid plate on another bike or have a spare on standby in case you did somehow break this. So before you try to do something like this, you got to come down here and do a little investigation, right? General understanding of how this works. You have the skid plate comes out, okay? There is a bracket that connects around, that basically hooks around off of this plate onto here, like so. So we have to account for that. We also need to account for where we would attach this linkage skid based on where frame bars are, right? Because we can't have bolts coming up and hitting that. So we have to really think about all this stuff and drill this thing in a way that makes sense. So a little investigation. Don't get willy-nilly. Like, take a look and think about where things are going to be. I know I have a piece of frame here, here, here. So I can't put any, obviously, bolts right here where the frame is. All right, let's get to it. I know, having done this before, that a good length for this is 10. It's going to be 10 inches. So our skid will be 4.5 inches wide by 10 inches long. Cut this out with a reciprocating saw. I'm sure you could use a good radial arm saw if you have it. I don't want to get it down off the shelf because it's really heavy. So I'm gonna use a reciprocating saw. Not too bad. We'll cut this end off. I'm not too worried about that one being straight, but because it's going to go under here, you're never going to see it. So we can at least try to get it straight, though, for the sake of doing things nicely. There we go. Something like that. We'll center it in there. We'll find a center point. That'll be where it resides. And we'll drill some holes and screw it in. So what we have, 10.5 inches. It's going to overlap 3.5 inches. So I measured that out. I also got a center line for our skid plate because this thing's wonky looking, right? But we know that on the back, this is going to be centered. Now these points are not centered on the back based off of the frame geometry, and we need to account for that. So this will be centered on here, but the holes will be offset, obviously. Okay, so we need to drill holes into our linkage skid for this, and then this nose hole. So, and I'm just trying to make sure this is mostly centered up here, which it's not. Let's slide this over just a hair. Okay, so I got these little clamps here holding it on. What we'll do, flip it over, something like so. We'll drill these holes real quick. A couple bolts down in here to just hold it into place. There you go. Just ream that out real good. You're going to need this kind of large slotted hole here in order for the bracket that holds this whole thing on to just have some free play to line up right. Obviously the bolts you'd want to use for the bottom, you'd probably want them to be not have a lot of edges. I had these laying around. They're just regular Allen head bolts. They could get hung, but you know, honestly, they give you the same thing, so that's better than nothing. Bracket that holds this in will also hold the skid in. So, boom, like that. Make sense? Cool. Last thing I want to do is just put a slight bend in this, something like that. So we'll add a little heat to that, just to bend it down a little bit. 100% this heat gun's on its last legs. So you see it's got a little bit of bend down. It's not bad. I don't want to mess with the structural integrity of this too much. I feel like heat was the reason why my last one broke, because I heated it up and bent it too many times. Let's get this thing on the bike. This is the worst part of this, is just getting this on the bike now. It's a miserable experience. So, a little tape or something to kind of hold this into place on the crossbar, because you are not going to be able to get your fingers in here unless you have little tiny lady fingers, which sometimes I wish I did have. Let it hang down a little bit. Cool. Some tricks. Ricochet skid guards. They give you Torx bolts because they hate you. Make sure you got Torx. All right, it would take an act of God to pull this thing off. Boom. Noise. So that looks pretty sweet. This is how it turned out. You know, you got, that's gonna be good. That's gonna be good. So the Ricochet skid plate's pretty awesome. It does give you some water pump protection, which is nice. Same with the other side. It's a nice skid plate. I like it. I like it. It was reasonably priced. I'm gonna leave a link below where you can purchase that if you choose to. Not a ton of options on these old YZs with these steel frames. Steel frame is the best frame. So the last thing I'd consider doing, which I should have done before I put it on, I didn't really think about it. You could knock down some of these sharp edges with just some sandpaper, which I will, oh, see, that's way better already, which I will do off camera, but just consider that maybe before you put it on the bike. These sharp edges, if there's a way to catch yourself on them somehow while you're out racing or something, you'll do it. That's just how life works. So, a little sandpaper. I like it. I like the way that turned out. I am very happy with it. So what did they take, an hour maybe? That was really about an hour's worth of time, and totally worth it. You start doing enduro stuff, you start going over logs and rocks and stuff, man, your linkage will get caught on everything. It's kind of frustrating. You'll be jealous of those XCW guys that don't have linkage. This will help. This will help. And it didn't take very long. A sheet of this UHMW stuff. This was 20 bucks for a 12 by 12. Now I have enough here to do another linkage skid for sure. And it's really not that much work. Just got to plan it out a little bit. And it's custom. It's custom. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hopefully it helped you. Ring the bell to follow along with this YZ250 build. And subscribe. Thanks. Thanks for watching.